Morning, everyone.
Welcome to Hudson Rotary. I'm Ron Strobel, the Sergeant at Arms. Our invocation this morning is by Joe Avell.
Good morning.
Morning.
Today we pray that we receive your special blessing because we in Rotary are committed to be a real service organization to help humankind. May each of us in our daily routine come to know the joy of caring and sharing with others not as fortunate as we are. May our motto that includes serving, caring, and sharing be us, a life in service. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Joe. To lead us in the pledge and the four-way test, Roseanne Drake.
Hello, everybody.
Good morning.
Pledge to
Pledge
our
allegiance.
flag. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And the four-way test. First,
Is it the truth?
second,
Is it fair to all concerned?
third,
Would it
Build goodwill and better friendships,
and fourth.
will be beneficial to all concerned.
Thank you, Roseanne. And now to lead us, he says, in all 6 verses of the
Star Spangled
Star-Spangled Banner.
Yeah,
Dick Pearsall.
Sunday was Flag Day, and so I think we should have a little tutorial on the Star Spangled Banner, and we'll just sing the first verse, but we have to sing it in the right key, so I have to use my pitch pipe to get going. So we can hit the high notes, that's it. And I've had the big flag from the town hall minister on, so I can, here we go. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bomb bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still. Here it comes now. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Well, you guys knew the words, right?
Good job.
Dick, we're never going to make it to the second verse because I still can't figure out how to flip these charts up here. Now our president, Allison Peaster.
Who's making a difference, Rotarians?
We are.
Good morning to everybody. How about those calves? Good try. And thank you, Tom Page, who went to the game last night. Got home at, what, 1 o'clock? And was here bright and early to set up everything for the AV by himself. So thank you, Tom. And I did see, yes, you're right, that's right. And I did see Mark Salem at the farmer's market. And now the only good thing about the season being over is that we will see him at Rotary. He was hoarse from screaming so loudly for the Cavs. So, Chris.
Yeah. Poor guy.
Good morning, Rotarians and guests. If you would please join me in welcoming the guests with us today, and if they would please stand so we can give them a nice welcome. From the Hudson School Board, we have Dave Zuro and Patty Engelman. Good morning. For joining us today. And then future member George Schmutz, owner of Printing Concepts in Stowe. Good morning, George. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks, Chris. Evan McCauley, would you like to come up and share your announcement?
So about those calves, well, I think it's awesome the effort they put in and really fought to the end, and that's why I'm proud to be a Cavs fan. So we'll be back next year. But my announcement, I was supposed to have a guest this morning, Tiffany Safran, who is the president-elect of the Rotary Club of Brunswick. She wanted me to share with everyone a golf outing opportunity. So, who likes golf in here? Raise your hand.
Now ask who to play.
All right, now I know who to come after the meeting. But the outing is at Fox Meadows in Medina. It's $125 a person. It's on July 20th at 10 a.m. and they're gonna have a dinner afterwards. And the proceeds from this outing will go to support youth programs and educational scholarships, international programs including polio vaccinations and clean water projects to third world countries. Locally, they'll use the funds for meals and supplies to needy families, Battered Women's Shelter of Summit and Medina Counties, Salvation Army, Hands Foundation, Faith in Action, Brunswick Food Pantry, Feeding Medina County, Hospice of Medina County, Brunswick Relay for Life, and many other community activities. So it sounds like our club, they're involved with a lot in their community. So I'm going to be standing at the front afterwards, and if we could get together a foursome or maybe two groups, I think that would be awesome. Thank you, everyone.
Jim Ahern, you wanted to talk to us?
Well, it's not a sheet going around, so I can say something.
I'm not sending one around. I'm just going to grab you afterwards, Jim.
On that note.
Yeah, I forget. No, I heard I heard on the news last night or some talk show late that all the failures in Cleveland in sports have nicknames. So this one's going to be the injuries. We'll go along with the drive and the fumble and the shot and everything else. It's too bad. They played great. I'm up here to talk about Rotary greetering for next year. And greetering. It is a new word I've coined. And no signing up for the month you know you're going to be gone. Okay, Rich? And no April for Rich, and if you're going to be in Florida in January, don't sign up for that one either. So I'll pass this around. It's a great opportunity, particularly, hi George, sign up for a month. I'll start it over there with you. Sign up maybe next month so you get a chance to meet people and handshakes to new Rotarians, at least to you. So we'll pass this around, and it'll be on the website when you're assigned, and I'll also send you out a week before the month or 2 weeks before some reminders that upcoming month is yours. Okay?
No pressure, George.
All right.
Gail, did you want to talk about the annual dinner?
Good morning, Rotarians. As you probably all know, we have changed our venue this year, so we will be at the Hilton Garden Inn. We will have our cocktails and hors d'oeuvres out on the patio, weather permitting, and then go inside to the Wilcox Ballroom for our full course dinner. So, where is that clipboard right now? Right there, Peter has it, okay. So it's making the rounds. I already have some checks. It's $40 per person, and we all, of course, want to be there to thank our president for a wonderful year and also to induct our new officers for the next Rotary year. So any questions, let me know later, but right now I just like to make sure that clipboard makes it all the way. Thank you.
Thanks, Gail. If you have any questions, just see Gail. Roseanne, are you ready to talk about a new project?
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I want to talk a little bit about the budget side of what the foundation has been doing for so long and what we plan to do more so in 2016. Our fiscal year, as you know, starts here next month. One of the things that we observed in the past year is we're going to, as an organization, be working more collaboratively with the club board to determine new ways of raising funds to meet the needs of the various community interests that we support throughout the year. To give you just a tip of the iceberg, we will be finishing the fiscal year 15 slightly in the red. It's not catastrophic. It's something that happens when the funding that you had planned on does not materialize in the format that you thought it would. But we are financially sound in our endowment and things of that nature, and again, we can recover from this. But I think it brings light to the fact that as the year progresses next year, we're going to have more discussion and ideas on doing different things at different times of the year to take pressure off some of the mainstay events we have, such as the gala and perhaps even the fall fundraiser. Today, Roseanne would like to discuss with you what I think is a very unique idea that is time efficient, effort efficient, and contributes to a needy cause for our entire Northeast Ohio region, which we benefit from at the end. I'm going to let her explain it to you. It can be a lot of fun, and I hope you'll certainly listen intently with the idea that we can support this in a very easy way. So, Roseanne?
Thanks, Craig. Okay, the Bridgestone Invitational is coming up here in Northeast Ohio. I believe it's August 6th through the 9th. And as you probably all know, it brings hundreds of people throughout the world to our community. And there's an organization called Tickets for Charity. And it is a group that allows nonprofit organizations in our community to sell tickets to the Bridgestone Invitational, and then we make money for our organization by selling tickets to that. So how do we make money? This is the basic structure here. 100% of the net proceeds go to charity. So, and then you can see on the third tier, if we sell $6,000 or more worth of tickets, we would get 75% of that. And then you're wondering, well, where does the other 25% go? The other 25% goes to the Northern Ohio Golf Charities. So it does, all the money does go to charity. Northern Ohio Golf Charities supports organizations in our community like Akron Children's Hospital, Rainbow, Metro Parks, the Akron and Cleveland Food Bank, you know, a lot of worthy organizations. And then our worthy organization gets to keep 75%. So, and you can see the breakdown, 2,000 to 5,999, you get 65%, and if we sell 2,000 or less, it's 50% of the net. So if you, could you advance that for me, James? So this is the pricing for the tickets to go. So I think we have about 50 members here, and if each of us buys one ticket to a regular competition round that's $40, that's $2,000 in sales revenue. We would get to keep $1,000 of that. Pretty simple, right? Okay. Could you advance? So we have already registered online at BuyTFC, which is ticketsforcharity.com. We've been given a unique code that is designated for our organization. And when people go online to buy tickets, if they put in our code, then we will, you know, that's how they're going to track our sales. The next one. So it's pretty easy. I think it's not going to be successful. The only way it's going to be successful is if we all reach out to our network. I'm working on, you know, putting together an email blast and some documents that I will send to you within a week because we could get started selling today if we wanted. So if each of you reaches out to your network of friends, you know, whoever you have email addresses for, and promote this, the more tickets we sell, the more money we have to support our Hudson community through our grant efforts. So, does anybody have any questions or thoughts or concerns?
Roseanne, thank you. I just have one comment I want to make. The efficiency of this thing is simply registering to buy the tickets online, right? There is no cash. So we're not in a situation where we gotta collect cash or whatever. It's whatever your independent action or your friends, network, family members, whatever, do with the code that Roseanne's gonna give you through an email that we're gonna be sending out here shortly. Next week, we've got the dinner. And Gail, if it's okay, we'd like to have some information at the registration desk, just a piece of paper that would have this information on. So if you attend the dinner and you want something more than just an email, we'll have that available for you. But this is a real easy way to raise some very small money. And yes, we're kind of late to the game this year because it's a new concept that we just got familiar with. We talked to the Rotary Foundation Board, Club Board last week. All of us agreed that this would be one of those nice, easy, no-brainers to tackle this time of year. So next year, I would say, if we agree to do it again, we would be way in advance to get more of a benefit towards that 65% split. Go.
Is that price any different than just walking in and paying?
No, it is not.
So there's an advantage to using this, if people are gonna go with it.
Yeah, could you repeat the question, because
Yeah,
it wasn't on the
question
mic?
was, is the price of the ticket we purchase online any different than the price you could buy for the ticket elsewhere or at the event? The answer is no, it's the same price. Rich?
Just a note or a comment.
Rich, I'm gonna have you, because they can't hear you.
Just a note or a comment, it probably would be a good gift to give to clients, like me.
Absolutely.
Evan McCauley could buy like 20 and give them to his clients.
Right, and that's a creative way to do it. I think the more we get comfortable with this thing, there's all kinds of different applications. Huh?
I love the fact that this is low risk,
Right.
I think high reward. I think this is a wonderful idea.
Yeah.
And congratulate you on thinking outside the box here, coming up with something good for us.
Yeah.
And
Roseanne's idea, so
add on to that, is this an annual thing? I mean, I don't mean to go off term, but annual.
Well, it's my understanding, Tom, that this can be done annually, and people do that, and so we're playing with it for the first time. If we get something out of it that, regarded, that involved a little effort, and it was a lot of fun for the members to go to the event anyway, as many of us do, right? Why not do it every year? And like I said earlier, we get on the front side probably a month or so earlier than we are right now, so we've got a little more time to, get more volume in the pipeline. So, Phil, did you have a question?
No, that's it.
Okay.
I was just gonna,
Roseanne?
I had a question. The Good Any Day ticket, that really sounds like a good option because you often don't know which day you're able to go. So I don't know how much you know about the individual tickets, but if you get that, does that mean literally you could decide that day which day you want to go?
I think so.
Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure on that. But we do have until July 31 to sell. So get those email lists ready.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for bringing this to our attention, Roseanne and Craig. Alrighty, now we're ready for our speaker today. So Catherine, if you're ready to introduce him.
Good morning, Rotarians. When I was asked to be the speaker chair, I had asked my coworker if he would speak, and this morning I'm thinking, well, how can I introduce Phil Herman to you? I know you all know him, he's a Rotarian, he's the superintendent of Hudson City Schools, but there's a few things you don't know about him. One of them, if I had, don't get worried, Phil. If I had to explain Phil to most people in one word would say leader. Most people would say, that he's a good communicator. But I think the most important word to me that describes him is integrity.
Yeah.
I've known a lot of superintendents and business officials in my career, which is long. But I think the biggest word for Phil that makes him unique, and a few words I hear out of him more than I think I've ever heard out of any educator, which also goes for our Board of Education, is what's best for the kids. Not what's best for the employee, not what's best for everyone else, but he actually does consider what's best for the kids. So this morning, our speaker is Mr. Phil Herman, Superintendent of Hudson City Schools.
Thank you, Catherine. Good morning, Rotarians.
Good morning, Phil.
So, I was making a mental note this morning as I was getting up and trying to shake off the sleep, saying, no more early morning presentations immediately following an NBA final game. National championships, take those off, off the table. Also, any sort of World Series games. No more. It has been an incredible run for the Cavaliers and been really a wonderful thing for this area of the community, but it's been exhausting too, hasn't it? I was watching some of those shots these last few weeks of LeBron where they're showing him, and he just looks so physically and mentally exhausted. And I was there on my couch thinking, I know how you feel, buddy. I have been staying up with you night after night, and I am not going to leave this house. I will not go to the bedroom TV. I tell you, I will be right here with you, bro. I will be here with you, and I will fight my way to the pantry just like Deli does. Get right in there and get a snack. I will be here. For you, Phil. So it has been absolutely wonderful, but exhausting too. It's really been. I apologize to the Board of Education members. Really been interfering with my work life. I know we have a limited time this morning, and this is a by the numbers presentation. So I don't know if you've ever seen a by the numbers presentation, or if I just made it up. But a by the numbers presentation, really, there will only be numbers on the screen this morning. And they will represent a point that I'm trying to make or a story I want to tell to hopefully help you know a little bit more about me, but also hopefully help you know more about the school district and some of the major topics that we've been talking about this year. So I'm going to talk a little bit about myself and background and how I came to be superintendent in Hudson City Schools. But then talk about our state's budget proposal and where we are in that process, some of our cost savings efforts in the school district. I'm going to talk to you about a topic that's been very important this year, heroin awareness efforts, and then as we wrap up the school year, we just concluded the school year, it's been a wonderful school year. I'm going to share with you just a few statistics that represent some of our successes this year. So there's the first number. If it looks like a phone number, you're right, it is. It's a phone number. As a matter of fact, that's the phone number of my parents' house. That I called in December of 1995 to tell my mom and dad that I was leaving law school. I was leaving law school actually, that's not how the conversation started. I called them and told them, Mom, Dad, I'm leaving law school. My dad said, why? And I said, I don't want to be a lawyer. I don't love law. And he said, well, I've learned a tremendous lesson in parenting right then in that moment. My dad says, well, I'd rather you figure that out when you're 22 than when you're 52. He said, I know a lot of unhappy lawyers that figure that out at that age. And he said, so you know, Phil, I'd rather have a happy ditch digger for a son than an unhappy lawyer. And so it's probably the best possible response I could have hoped for, in that moment. And he said, so go do what you want to do. So what do you want to do? I said, well, I want to work with students. I want to have positive impact on the lives of youth. And so I went and completed my student teaching, and I started interviewing for positions in this area because I grew up in Stowe and in Central Ohio, where I've been working at a camp because those were the places where I had possible places to live and live cheaply. And so I was hired at a school district that is about 30 miles east of Columbus on the Buckeye Lake region, Lakewood Local Schools, and as a teacher. And I lived at the camp where I was working, Camp O'Bannon, in a staff house, a 2-bedroom staff house where the furnace pilot light went out every single time the wind blew too hard for $500 a year. I paid $100 a month only in the months where I was there wasn't enough work at camp to pay for my rent, so I paid $100 a month, and that enabled me to really work on my master's degree and get started towards administration. But to tell you a little bit about Lakewood, to give you a perspective, Lakewood was 2,200 students spread over 115 square miles. To give you a little bit of perspective on that, Hudson is 4,600 students over 31 square miles. So it was a rural school district comprised of a couple small villages and 4 townships, and very different demographically than Hudson, with about 40% students on free and reduced lunch, as opposed to our 4% students on free and reduced lunch. And it was a wonderful, wonderful opportunity. I was a teacher at the high school, English, Journalism, and Speech, and I coached freshman football, girls basketball 1 season, and track as well. And I taught for 3 years at Lakewood, became an elementary principal at Lakewood for 3 years, and then became their superintendent for 3 years. During that period of time, always looking up at this area and hopefully the possibility of moving home. And a job came open, the Director of Human Resources in Hudson, and I was fortunate to be selected for that position when it came open, and that was over 10 years ago, and here I am today. The wonderful thing about Lakewood was, particularly being superintendent there, was it was an incredible training ground in a school district that size. We didn't have departments. The HR department was this corner of my desk, the technology department was this corner of my desk, and the curriculum was this corner, operations right over here. And so you learn a tremendous amount about each of those areas very quickly. It was absolutely a baptism by fire, but it was wonderful. 3 more dates. These are pretty important ones. May 17th, 1997 is the day I met my wife. My mother-in-law continues to insist that we met in a restaurant, but I remind her every time that they only served peanuts there and certain beverages as well. She cannot say where we met other than referring to it as a restaurant. I love that. Everything in my life changed for the better when I met her, and on August 24, 2001, our daughter Olivia was born, and on April 14, 2004, our son Hayden was born. Once again, everything in my life changed for the better. Made me a much better educator, being a parent, and it is one of the greatest joys of my life, is being a father to those two. $2.98 million. You might recognize this number as we transition into hot topics for this school year. We've been talking a lot about this in the paper. We've been trying to provide updates to the community. $2.98 million is what was originally proposed in the governor's biennial budget for how much money Hudson City School District would lose over the next 2 years. And we've been talking a lot about that, sharing that information, and really advocating at the state level against the changes that would cause us to lose money. There is a tremendous amount of additional money for public education in this budget, depending on which proposal, anywhere from $750 to about $950 million more to public education, while in the original proposal, some school districts were still getting cut. We recognize that we are a high wealth community as compared to many other communities in Ohio, and we do not necessarily need additional funding, although I would welcome additional funding from the state for our schools. We don't necessarily need it, but I certainly feel strongly that school districts should not be going backwards, and the path to improving education in the state of Ohio is not to cut high-performing school districts so that we are racing towards mediocrity. So we are and have been passionately advocating for changes to the budget so that we won't lose those funds. Those changes, or the advocation has worked, as we have had Citizens for Hudson Schools, a community group working, and our Board of Education working, and administrators working with legislators, particularly local legislators, to propose changes. Christina Rogner has been very helpful in proposing amendments in the House version of the bill that led to school districts being held harmless. And then in the next 2 years, then the House approved their version of the budget, sent it over to the Senate, and just recently we learned Although it didn't look good for a while, the Senate also released a version of the budget that held school districts harmless. So in those two versions, at least the initial proposals, Hudson wouldn't lose any additional funding, and that's a very good thing. There was an omnibus amendment yesterday that changed or tweaked the Senate's version a little bit, and there's expected to be more amendments today, and then full vote of the Senate today. As soon as the Senate votes, they'll send it back to the House. The House is expected to reject their version, which will put a joint committee together on the entire budget bill, and they will try to work out any differences. Now that's, I would expect that, or we're optimistic, that because both came out with versions that held all school districts harmless to at least their fiscal year 2015 state funding level, that between the House and the Senate, we could possibly not have any reductions, but then it goes back to the governor, who certainly has the power of line item veto, and we're hoping that school districts are at least held harmless in the next 2 years. We will continue to work to advocate for no reductions to Hudson City Schools. If there are reductions, we feel as though we have worked very hard to position ourselves to try to sustain those. Let me share with you a little bit of an example of what I mean. This number represents line 5.05 on the 5-year forecast titled Hudson City Schools Total Expenditures and Other Financing Uses. This is the number from 2010. We have been able to hold this, reduce this number or hold it steady. Actually, we don't exceed this number again in our expenditures in the 5-year forecast until 2018. So we've reduced our total expenditures from 2010 below that number, and we don't exceed this number again until 2018 in the 5-year forecast. So how have we done that? Well, we're a service organization. We're primarily made up of people, and so these numbers represent the 2009 full-time equivalent number of staff members, 647.2 in 2009, as compared to this past October, 568.8. So we've reduced staff significantly. That's how we've been able to hold that last expenditure number down. Additionally, there were pay freezes during those periods of years for each of our groups: administrators, teachers union, support staff union, non-represented staff, have had various freezes on their wages at different years since 2010. And then we have negotiated changes to salaries and to benefits to try to keep that overall cost expenditure down or to reduce it. Additionally, as you know, we try to address our facility needs, or we've tried to address our facility needs, particularly where there was a great deficit in athletic facilities. We've been fortunate to have community members support our athletic facilities, and we have been able to address millions of dollars in facility needs with Hudson Memorial Stadium, Malson Athletic Center, Scott Malson Field, and the Hudson Community Tennis Center through donations, primarily from community members. And so there has been a huge community effort to try to address at least athletic facilities through donations. Another way that we address our financial, I guess that we're financially responsible, is that we try to seek the most efficient ways to operate. This number, 1,850, is the number of Chromebooks that we have within our school district. I don't know if you're familiar with what a Chromebook is, but a Chromebook is a computer that is like a small laptop. But a laptops cost $899, $999 per laptop. Chromebook costs $299. A Chromebook does not do all the things that a regular laptop does, but it meets our educational needs of our students very well because it provides tremendous access to Google Apps for Educators. So Google Apps for Educators are a cloud-based system, and these computers access the web and surf the web extremely well. And so our students, for example, might work on a Google Doc. So the Google Doc is actually held out here in the cloud, and rather than them creating a document and turning the paper in, the teacher has access to the Google Doc via the intranet, and the student has access. But the teacher has tremendous access in the fact that they can see all of the revision history on that document. They can see when the student logged in, how the student was revising their writing, how the student was communicating and sharing with other students for group projects. So we're able to do presentations, we're able to do spreadsheets, we're able to do documents, and those can be shared for entire classes between small groups of individuals with just the teacher. Assignments are often turned in that way, and that can all be done via $299 computers rather than $999 computers. And so Google Apps for Educators has had a significant impact on how we're able to allow our students, enable our students to work together and utilize technology effectively. Switching topics here, this is an important number, it's a serious number. 4 represents the number of Hudson alumni, recent Hudson alumni who have passed away in the past 2 years of heroin overdoses. It's hard to imagine that we're here in Hudson and we're talking about heroin, and heroin is an issue or heroin is a problem in our community. There's certainly a stigma associated with heroin, and there are stereotypes associated with heroin, and many of us have those stereotypes. But the fact of the matter is, heroin is in our community, it's in every community throughout the state of Ohio, it's prevalent throughout the United States. It's cheap, there's much access to it, and it is seriously damaging. And so we took a tremendous effort this year to try to pull the veil off of heroin and to recognize that it is here in our community, and we have a responsibility to talk about it. We have a responsibility to educate our children about it and educate adults about it. Our students created a student awareness video at the high school. I think you can still access that via our website. It was a documentary type of video that was tremendously powerful. And we also brought in a heroin awareness team to talk with our students at the high school, which is a group of recovering addicts who, as part of their recovery, share their story with other students. We held an event called No One Starts with Heroin, which included a judge, a doctor, our own Chris Barker, and a recovering addict. And this panel held at Hudson High School in April. There were over 200 community members there for us to talk specifically about this issue within our community. And then we held a drug collection day where community members could drop off prescription drugs from their homes. Prescription drugs is one of the most common pathways to heroin addiction. As individuals become addicted to painkillers, they then seek out unused prescription drugs and become addicted. And when those lines dry up, those pathways towards prescription drugs dry up, then they turn to heroin because it's a cheaper, more readily available option. It's hard to imagine that this is an issue here, but it is, and we will continue to talk about it and educate our students, and educate our families, and talk about the pathways towards heroin use, that individuals could be on that path before they even realize what a dangerous path that it is, so that we will do everything in our power to ensure that there is not another student or alumni or community member that is a victim to that addiction. I need to, I know I'm going on here and I'm using a lot of time, and so I'm going to wrap up with some of the statistics that are really symptoms of success within the school district. This is 6 of 881 and 221 of 29,070. Hudson High School was ranked 6th in Ohio by the U.S. News and World Report of 881 high schools in the state, and we were 221st in the nation of 29,070 high schools, public high schools. Newsweek earlier this past year ranked us 2nd in Ohio, and we're very proud of those statistics. as I can't share all the statistics or talk to you about every grade level, and so I'll just rattle through a few of them here that I think are, as I say, indicators or symptoms of success. The Ohio Academy of Science this spring awarded $802,500 in Ohio college scholarships to 172 high school students for their STEM commercialization efforts. Hudson students competed in that competition, and of the $802,000 that was awarded in scholarship money, Hudson students received $157,000 of that money. Wow. Our students at the high school, 754 students took 1,608 tests, AP tests, this past year. As an indicator of how that has grown, 7 years ago, 312 students took 600 tests. So the number of students taking AP tests has significantly climbed over the past 7 years. We don't have our AP results back yet for this past school year, but we do know that last year, 83% scored a 3 or higher, earning them college credit for those exams. We had 409 graduates this past year. 197 of them earned a State of Ohio Diploma's honor, which means that they had a 3.5 GPA or a 27 ACT composite at 3.5 or higher, or 27 or higher. We had 32 National Merit Scholars, 21 were commended, 11 finalists, and that was the second highest number of National Merit Scholars since 1974, where we had 33. Last year's ACT average in Hudson was a 25.6. The Ohio average is 22, and the national average is 21. So again, an indicator of our students' overall success. But as you know, it's not only about academics. We're trying to develop and grow the entire child, the whole child. 13,827. This is the number of service learning hours logged by our service learning class, number of volunteer hours logged by our service learning students. So when you see them up here and you see Lonnie Banner and the students up here talking about their experiences together as a group, those students logged 13,827 hours this year. Our National Honor Society logged an additional 9,000 hours. Our student government led the region in high school sponsored blood drives. And you can see you have been kept up to date by Ed Sogan of our athletic accomplishments, and many of our athletic teams also give back, and as do our music organizations and students in the arts as well. The class of 2015, when you put them all together, collectively benefited from over $402,000 of local scholarships, including the scholarships from Hudson Rotary. That brought the total number of scholarships accepted, that doesn't mean awarded, but actually accepted to be put into use by this year's class to just under $2.7 million. So that gives you an idea of how high of a level our students are performing. We're very fortunate to have incredible students and incredible families, and incredible community that comes together to provide these opportunities for our students. This could be the most important number. I'm sorry, I skipped our 13,827 number there up there. This could be the most important number I share today. Stephen Covey states, "We only get one chance to prepare our students for a future that none of us can possibly predict. What are we going to do with that chance?" And that's I've always appreciated that quote. This is the number of chances we have for each one of our students that comes through Hudson Schools to prepare them for the real indicator of success, and that's life beyond the doors of Hudson City Schools. Where are they going once they leave us, and are they prepared to achieve their dreams, not only, but also to be productive citizens and to give back in their communities. When we think about that one chance, I shared with you an example of Google Chromebooks, and those Chromebooks have profoundly impacted what we're doing in many of our classrooms. Those Chromebooks didn't exist 5 years ago, and so we're preparing students, our kindergarten students that are coming in right now. We are planning their path for the next 13 years. They'll graduate in 2029. And so we don't know what the future will hold for them. But we do know that there are some things that they will need. In addition to a strong academic base, they will also need our values. They'll need our character traits. They'll need the things that we know over time, regardless of how the world changes, are enduring. And those are values such as integrity, honesty, work ethic, the desire to learn, caring, perseverance, creativity, and compassion. They will need us to model those values, and they will need us as a school district and community to help them develop those values in themselves. And so while we focus on those individual measures of success, while we have and celebrate championships and celebrate credible music performances and celebrate drama performances and our test statistics. Those are all, again, as I say, indicators of success. The true test is whether or not we have been able to prepare our students to utilize those values that we teach on a regular basis to have a positive impact on this world. That's why I left law school. That's why I got into this business. And that's what we hope to achieve. So with that, I'll wrap it up. Thank you for your time this morning, and if there's any time left, we'll turn it over for questions.
Hey, Phil, great presentation. A question, the class of 2015, could you share some of the colleges that they're going to go to this fall?
Yeah, Yale, Harvard. We do have students going to Harvard. Many. I don't know if we can name a university in Ohio where they're not attending. Large numbers headed to Ohio State, to Miami, to Dayton, to Kent, to Ohio University. But I had breakfast with a student yesterday morning who's going to Wake Forest. We have students going to Indiana. I just really all over the board.
Phil, in addition, of those students, a substantial number are going into the military, including one young fellow going directly, into the Marine Corps. So.
Right. We do have students going straight to the services, correct.
Hey, Phil, for those people that didn't attend the graduation services, how many times, because I didn't see the number up there, was your face tweeted during the course of the year?
Yeah, that's a good question. The students and I have a unique relationship on Twitter. It's really interesting. I began using Twitter to promote positive events, happenings in public education a few years ago. When some of the movies were coming out, like Waiting for Superman and Senate Bill 5, there was just a tremendous amount of discussion about the really negative discussion about public education in our nation. And I thought, here I am, and we're public education too, and I'm seeing these incredible accomplishments every day. So I said, there's got to be a way to help tell that story on a daily basis. So I began tweeting. And individuals began following me. Then I became superintendent. And the first snow day came, and my number of followers jumped by 500 the night before. And then as soon as that started to happen, our students would certainly be upset on days when I didn't call a snow day, where they thought one should be called, and they celebrated the incredible decision of their superintendent on the days where I did call off. And they would post my face on pictures of superheroes and athletes celebrating, and I have no idea how many times, but they certainly had fun with it.
My other question is, we had a certain AP stats teacher over the other night, and I was impressed with his sacrifice to go to Missouri or wherever he was heading to grade X amount of AP tests. How many other Hudson School teachers went to wherever that was located?
Yeah, that's a good question. Rich, I don't know exactly how many go, but we do send many of our AP teachers who are willing to be AP test graders at the national level. And while that's a few days away, what it does is enables them to understand at the highest levels what it takes to receive credit. And they bring that back. They're with other excellent teachers from around the nation, and they bring that back, and they're able to utilize that the following year with the next group of students that they're teaching AP. So there are several AP teachers that go on an annual basis, and we try to get them there at least once to have that experience.
Phil, if you could put yourself back 40 years ago, what are some of the, I'm sure there's some very timeless things about being superintendent, but what would you imagine are some of the biggest changes that have happened, that are challenges that a superintendent faces today that they would have faced when we were all kids?
Well, personally, I was 40 years ago, so
yeah.
it's difficult for me to answer.
Well, we'll have a superintendent from that time get up there. No, I would say that certainly technology is one of the greatest changes as we think about the pace of change and really how our students learn. We're now seeing students who are truly digital natives. They have had devices in their hands from the times that they were one, and they have comfort and familiarity with technology that the adults in their life don't have. It's also an expectation that they understand they're so comfortable using those devices to access information. And they view information a little bit differently. They view information as what information can I access to be able to use to solve a problem. They don't necessarily view it as I need to know this body of information. They don't think they need to know that body of information. That body of information is instantly accessible through devices that are all around them. So they view information as I need information when I need it to solve a problem. And so we're caught in a place where we have to help them understand that there are certain bases of information that they're going to need, or they won't be able to apply that information in the best way. But we also have to recognize that in some ways they are right. The information, the rote memorization of facts isn't as necessary as it was perceived to be when we were in school. I would also imagine, from an administrative point of view, that there's far more federal and state regulations and direction given than the superintendent would have faced in times past.
I mean, I would imagine 40 years ago, maybe even 15 years ago, policy manuals for school districts, the number of policies that had to be in place were, probably about, this thick. Now it's 2 5-inch binders worth of policies, and that's just to be in compliance with a number of state and federal laws and regulations. Yeah. Thank you.
I've had the pleasure of working with Phil's father, John, who's an attorney in Akron, and he was always intelligent, hardworking, intuitive, kind, and a true gentleman. So it's easy to see that the son is cut from the same cloth. And I'm glad you dropped out of law school. Alrighty, we're ready for Rota Buck. We have $13 payout. Jackpot is $515.
There's the winner. That's the winner.
Let's write my ticket. Okay, last four are 4162.
Oh, close. Jimmy, close.
Oh, I got it.
You are lucky.
All right.
I believe you.
Shake it up.
All right.
Oh, we're so sad. Don't forget there's no morning meeting next week, so don't show up. It's been a pleasure being your president. This is my last hit with the gavel, so thank you.